Welcome back to the family. Have you ever seen a multi-billionaire CEO wearing a luxury brand watch roll up his pants and wade into the mud to painstakingly stack stones for his wife's chicken coop? Today, we are going to witness a dreamlike moment between James and Diep in the biting 50-degree, 10 degrees Celsius cold where love warms everything. But the calm ocean signals a storm. Behind that steaming bowl of chicken glass noodle soup and that simple happiness is a fierce undercurrent of family drama. Why did Mr. Juan secretly take baby Nee out and then rush off? Why has he kept a photo of a strange woman hidden in his safe for 25 years? Is Diep actually the illegitimate child of the Vu family? The answer lies at the end of this video. Support their love by hitting that like button and remember to subscribe so you don't miss the most exciting twists. The sweet chill of early winter arrived blanketing the quiet suburbs. The temperature dropped to just 50 degrees Fahrenheit, 10 degrees Celsius. Frost hung on the bare branches, making the scenery of Diep's farm look hazier and lonelier than usual. Diep was huddled in a thick puffer jacket, her hands turning red from the cold. She was struggling to shield the chicken coop from the wind. Suddenly, a familiar vehicle screeched to a halt in front of the bamboo fence. It wasn't the usual sleek Maybach. Today, James was driving a high-clearance pickup truck, the bed loaded with farming tools. As soon as he stepped out, James's breath puffed out in white clouds. He wasn't wearing a suit, and there was no tie. The powerful CEO of the Vu Group was dressed today in a charcoal gray turtleneck, a rugged windbreaker, and rubber boots, an image his employees probably couldn't imagine in a million years. "Why are you here at this hour? It's freezing. Why aren't you resting at home?" Diep ran out, her voice scolding him, but her eyes couldn't hide her joy. James didn't answer immediately. He smiled and walked straight over to the little puppy named Me, who was shivering in the corner of the porch. The tiny, fluffy dog was whining from the cold. James bent down, scooped the puppy up, and tucked it inside his windbreaker, rubbing its freezing fur. Me is freezing. Look at him, he's shaking like a leaf. Then he turned to look at Diep, reaching up to gently stroke her ice-cold cheek. "You too. Your nose is red as a tomato. If I didn't come, were you two planning to freeze solid out here?" They sat down by the makeshift fire. Diep had just started. James took a small knife and some ripe red apples from his bag. Hands that were used to signing million-dollar contracts were now meticulously peeling thin, even the strips of apple skin. He cut it into small slices and fed them directly to Diep. "Eat up to get some strength. I'm off work today. I'm going to be your employee for the whole day. Today we finished the water trough for the chickens." Diep chewed the sweet apple slice. The sweetness spread across the tip of her tongue, chasing away the winter numbness. Amidst the cold, an invisible fire was being lit warmer than any modern heater. The work began. This was no longer a romance novel. This was farming reality. James took off his windbreaker and rolled his sweater sleeves up past his elbows. He swung the hoe. Powerful, decisive strikes cut into the ground, which had hardened from the frost. "We only need to dig this hole about 16 inches, 40 centimeters deep. Deep, too deep, and the chicks will fall in and can't get out. Too shallow, and the water gets dirty fast." Diep helped him shovel the dirt away. Seeing sweat start to bead on her husband's forehead, she felt bad. "Leave it there, I'll do it." You're not used to heavy labor. Who told you I'm not used to it? Back in the day, my dad made me work on construction sites all the time for field experience. James laughed, wiping away the sweat. Once the hole took shape, James started guiding Diep on how to line the plastic tarp. He was incredibly careful, smoothing out every fold in the corners so the water wouldn't leak. Then came the most important part, stacking the stones. James didn't stack the rocks randomly. He chose flat, rugged stones, arranging them into 2 solid layers around the walls of the pit. Watch this. James pointed, his voice serious, as if presenting a project. The bottom layer holds the tarp. The second layer wedges on top, so when it rains hard, the water won't wash soil down and bury the trough. Then he picked up a rock of just the right height and placed it at the water's edge to form a small step. And this stone is the most important one. This is the lifeline step. Chicks and young chickens can easily slip when drinking. If there isn't a step for them to climb out, they'll be soaked in cold water. In this season, wet feathers mean pneumonia and instant death. Doing agriculture means calculating even the smallest risks like that. Diep looked at him, her eyes full of admiration. She thought he only knew macroeconomics, but who knew he understood these tiny details even better than a country girl like her? While stacking stones, James chatted, "Diep, I think the coop is ready. But don't bring the chickens in all at once. I plan to bring in 200 right away to make it worth the effort," Diep said excitedly. James shook his head immediately. "No, listen to me. That's a blood sweat lesson in business. Only bring in small batches, about 20 to 30 at a time. Why, at that rate, when will we have a full flock?" James patiently explained his hand, still adjusting a stone. First, to let them adapt to the new environment. Second, and more importantly, to quarantine for disease. If the first batch has a disease, we handle it easily and the loss is minimal. If you import 201 gets sick, the whole flock goes under. Talent isn't as good as deep pockets, but deep pockets are nothing compared to street smarts. Remember that, little boss. James's advice was an enlightenment for Diep. It turned out that a CEO's mindset applied to raising chickens was just as sharp. While engrossed in work, Diep suddenly realized something was wrong. Wait, where is baby Ly? She was just playing with me by the tree, wasn't she? James looked up, scanning the area. The yard was empty. Only me, the puppy, was asleep. "Nee, nee," Diep screamed, throwing her shovel to the ground. She ran to the gate, then to the backyard. No sign of her child. Diep's heart felt like it was being squeezed by an invisible hand. The trauma of having her rights as a mother stripped away the fear of James's family, forbidding them, came rushing back. Do you think your dad sent someone to snatch her away?" Diep turned to James, eyes brimming with tears, her voice trembling. James tried to reassure his wife, but even he felt a flash of worry. He pulled out his phone to call his bodyguards when a car horn blared from the main road. A luxurious black sedan slowly rolled in. The back window lowered. Baby Ly stuck her head out, grinning ear to ear, holding a huge box of cookies. "Mommy, Diep, Daddy, James' grandpa took me to the supermarket to buy so much stuff." The door opened, and Ly ran straight into Diep's arms. Diep hugged her child tight, tears of relief streaming down her face. Sitting inside the car, Mr. Juan, James's father, did not step out. He simply lowered the window, watching the family reunion with a complex gaze. He gave a slight nod to James, then signaled the driver to turn around and leave immediately. Only when his father's car disappeared did James exhale in relief, draping his arm around Diep to walk her inside. "See, I told you." Diep wiped her tears. "But why did he take her without saying a word?" "He scared me to death." James looked toward the road, now shrouded in fog, pensive. "That's just Dad. He's spent his whole life giving orders, not explanations. He's strict and cold in business, but deep down, he's very lonely and craves family connection. Nye's innocence is the only medicine for him right now." He turned to Diep, his eyes steady. "Nye is the key, Diep. Dad might not accept you immediately, but he can't resist how adorable his granddaughter is. Be patient. He's softening. The fact that he personally drove Nye back here instead of sending a driver is an extremely good sign." Lunch that day happened later than usual. There were no exotic delicacies, just a pot of chicken glass noodle soup, mien ga, cooked in a rush with broth, stewed from chicken bones, wood ear mushrooms, and shiitake. Steam rose from the bowls, blending with the fragrant scent of scallions and cilantro. In the 50-degree cold, sipping a spoonful of hot, sweet broth felt like all fatigue just melted away. James ate heartily, abandoning all gentlemanly manners. He blew on the noodles as he ate, sweat beading on his forehead. "This is so good, Diep. The 5-star restaurants where I take clients don't have this flavor. The taste of home." Diep watched him eat, her heart aching with love. A man who stood above thousands was now sitting on a low plastic stool, eating a bowl of common street food just for her. "Eat more. You look like you've lost weight." James put down his bowl, looking straight into Diep's eyes. "Diep, do you know the story of Mrs. Nguyen Thi Thanh?" "No, I don't." James began to tell the story, his voice warm like a narrator of fairy tales. "She came from a countryside region, even poorer than yours. She started just like you, raising a few dozen chickens, planting a few rows of vegetables. People laughed at her, calling her delusional. Her husband tried to stop her. Natural disasters and diseases wiped out all her assets 3 times. Diep listened intently, seeing her own reflection in the story. But she didn't give up. James continued, his eyes lighting up. She learned. She applied science. She turned waste into fertilizer. And now she is the chairwoman of a clean agricultural corporation exporting to Europe. People call her the agriculture queen." James took Diep's calloused hand. "I'm not telling you this to pressure you. I'm telling you so you know that you have the qualities of a winner. Your meticulousness, your love for plants, those are your greatest assets. Don't feel inferior because of your humble background. To me, right here on this farm, you are a queen." James's words were like warm water, soothing Diep's soul, which had been dried out by insecurity. She smiled, the most radiant smile of the day. Late afternoon, the sky began to darken and turn colder. It was time for James to leave. He changed back into his elegant clothes, but the faint scent of soil and cilantro still lingered on his hands. Diep walked him to the car. The atmosphere grew heavy with reluctance to part. "I have to go on a business trip for 3 days. This trip is very important," James said, his face suddenly becoming unusually serious. "Yes, travel safely. Nye and I will wait for you." James hesitated for a moment, then decided to say something he had been thinking about all afternoon. "Diep, I intended to hide this, but I think you need to know so you can be at peace." "What is it?" Diep asked worriedly. James took a deep breath. "Do you remember that contract to buy all your farm produce last month? The strange company that suddenly jumped in with a cash deposit." "Yes, I remember. Thanks to them, I managed to rotate my capital. That wasn't a coincidence." James looked deep into his wife's eyes. "I had the money trail investigated. The person behind that company is my father." Diep was stunned, her eyes widening in shock. "What, your dad? But he hates me, doesn't he? He forbade us from being together." James nodded, his voice dropping, filled with hidden meaning. "That is exactly what I'm wondering. On the surface, he opposes us fiercely, but on the inside, he is silently clearing the path for you. He had people block competitors from squeezing your prices, and he indirectly pumped capital into your business." "But why would he do that, honey?" James looked into the distance, his voice hardening. "I just found a clue in Dad's old safe. A file of medical records and letters that were never sent, from 25 years ago. A secret that even Mom knows nothing about." The wind hissed through the bamboo grove like whispers from the past. "What secret?" Diep asked, trembling. Her intuition told her this was directly linked to her fate. James placed both hands on Diep's shoulders, squeezing tight. "I can't say for sure yet. This 3-day business trip is actually a cover. I'm going to find the last witness of that event. He is living in seclusion in the highlands." He bent down, planting a hurried but promising kiss on her forehead. "Trust me, in 3 days, when I return, the curtain on this 25-year-old secret will be lifted. And I believe it will be the answer to all the barriers that have separated us for so long. Maybe Dad isn't as scary as we think. Or maybe there is a pain he has had to shoulder alone for too long." James got into the truck. The door slammed shut, separating two worlds. The vehicle rolled away, leaving Diep rooted to the spot in the freezing winter afternoon. Her mind was no longer on chicken stones or water troughs. It was consumed by the question of her powerful and mysterious father-in-law. What happened 25 years ago? Why was he secretly helping her? And will the truth James brings back in 3 days be happy news of a reunion or the opening of a tragic new chapter? The wind continued to howl, but inside Diep, a different kind of storm was beginning to form. While Diep stood frozen in the cold suburban afternoon, watching her husband's car leave the atmosphere was equally chilling in the city center inside the magnificent Vu family villa. Mrs. Lan sat on the crimson velvet sofa in the vast living room. In her hand was a cup of tea that had gone cold long ago. She didn't drink. Her eyes stared blankly into the garden where the swing baby knee sat on yesterday was still swaying gently in the wind. 25 years. That number kept repeating in her head like a broken record. She recalled the argument with her husband, Mr. Juan, last night. It wasn't a loud fight, but a terrifying silence. She had asked him, "Why? Why are you so harsh on James? Why do you hate Diep enough to want to destroy her livelihood? Is it because she's poor? Or is it because of me?" At that moment, Mr. Juan had turned his back to her, his shoulders shaking uncontrollably. Mrs. Lan had slept on the same pillow as him for 25 years. She understood his every breath. She knew that shaking wasn't from anger. It was from fear. Mrs. Lan stood up, walking slowly to the fireplace where a family photo taken when James was a newborn hung. "James," she whispered, "Mom is sorry." I thought your father hated Ly. I thought he was just being vain about social status. But I was wrong. She remembered Mr. Juan's eyes when he looked at Ly yesterday. When he lifted the little girl into the car, he secretly kissed her hair. A man who hates his grandchild would never do that. She even saw him wiping away tears when he looked at the hair clip Ly left behind on the car seat. If not hate, if not because of Ly, then what is it? Mrs. Lon shuddered. A woman's intuition told her there is a terrifying hidden tragedy buried exactly 25 years ago, the year James was born. Mr. Hoan was trying to hide it, even using fake cruelty to cover up a very real pain. Meanwhile, on the top floor of the Vu Group Tower, Mr. Juan stood before the floor-to-ceiling window, looking down at the glittering city lights below. But in his eyes, there was only a thick fog. Mr. Chairman, the voice of his assistant Trung broke the silence. Trung entered holding a thick file. The procedure for the third transfer to Green Produce Supply is complete. We use the venture capital fund's name to pump capital to them as you directed. Ms. Diep still knows absolutely nothing. Mr. Hoan didn't turn around, simply nodding slightly. Good. Ensure no one traces this cash flow, especially James. Trung hesitated for the moment, then gathered all his courage to step forward. Mr. Chairman, I have followed you for 20 years. There are things a subordinate shouldn't ask. But this time, I truly don't understand. Mr. Hoan turned around, his eyes sharp as a blade. What do you want to ask? Why? Trung swallowed hard. Why do you have to painfully play the villain like this? On the outside, you order embargoes, blocking all of Ms. Diep's partners. You scold James, threatening to kick him out.
该住手！
of the house. But behind the scenes, you are the only one who saved Miss Diep's company from bankruptcy. You had people pave the way, handle the paperwork, and even bought all her unsold chickens under the guise of a trader. Trung looked straight at his boss, his voice earnest. If you don't speak up, Ms. Diep will forever think you are the enemy. Young Master James will resent you for the rest of his life. Why do you endure such misunderstanding? Mr. Hoan walked slowly to his desk and slumped into the leather chair. He looked a decade older than his usual authoritative self. He opened a locked drawer and took out an old yellowed photograph. In the photo was neither James nor Diep. It was an image of a strange woman and a newborn baby lying in an incubator. Trung. Mr. Juan's voice was hoarse. In this world, there are truths where it is better to let people hate you than to let that truth kill them. He gently stroked the photo. His eyes read, I help Diep not because I've accepted her as a daughter-in-law, but because I owe her. This debt, even the entire Vu family fortune cannot repay it. Trung was stunned. A debt. What could a powerful chairman owe a poor country girl? Mr. Hoan looked up, his gaze resolute again. Prepare the car. This trip to the north isn't to sign contracts. I'm going to meet the keeper of the key to the secret from years ago. It is time to end this. Before leaving the office, Mr. Juan's phone rang. The screen displayed wife. He stared at the phone for a long time, his hand trembling, afraid to answer. He feared facing Mrs. Lon right now, but the persistent ringing was like her patience over the last 25 years. Hello? he answered. On the other end, Mrs. Land's voice was trembling but steely. You've left, haven't you? Are you planning to run away from me again? I'm on a business trip. Urgent work. Juan lied, but his lack of confidence betrayed him.
Stop lying!
Mrs. Land screamed, her voice breaking into tears. We have lived together for 25 years, Juan. I can endure your controlling nature. I can endure your coldness. But I cannot endure you deceiving me about our children. She paused to catch her breath, then continued every word, cutting into his heart. I know you are hiding a dark secret. It's related to that rainy night 25 years ago, isn't it? The night I gave birth to James. And the hospital reported an incident. Mr. Hoan started violently, his face drained of blood. He gripped the phone so tight, his knuckles turned white. What nonsense are you talking about? I am not talking nonsense. Answer me. Why did you forbid the two of them? Why do you both love and hate them like that? If you don't tell me, right now, I will find out myself. I will tear that past apart. Silence enveloped both ends of the line. Only the heavy breathing of two old people remained. Mr. Hoan closed his eyes. He knew he couldn't hide it anymore. The truth was bound to come out. But telling her over the phone right now would be too cruel. And he needed to verify one last thing on this trip. Lan, Mr. Juan's voice dropped tired and pleading. I beg you, please trust me one last time. Trust what? Do nothing. Don't investigate anything on your own. Just wait for me. Mr. Hoan said, every word slow and steady. I am going on this trip for 3 days. Just 3 days. I need to meet someone to verify the truth. What truth? Everything. Mr. Hoan took a deep breath. About James, about Diep, and even about the child we thought we lost. On the other end of the line, Mrs. Land dropped the phone. Clack! The sound echoed piercingly. Mr. Hoan? Hoan continued speaking into the void, not knowing if she was still listening. When I return, I will speak. I will tell you everything. Even if that truth tears our family apart, I will say it. Wait for me. He hung up. Outside the window, a streak of lightning flashed across the sky, followed by a deafening clap of thunder. The winter storm had truly begun. Dear friends, there are secrets buried not out of deception, but out of protection. Mr. Juan, the most powerful man of the Vu clan, has carried a heavy psychological burden for 25 years. On the surface, prohibition. Deep down, protection. On the surface, hatred. Deep down, suppressed love. Why must a father live a double life like that? Why is he so terrified of James and Diep being together? Could it be a cruel twist of bloodline? Or is it a curse? A vendetta from the previous generation that these two innocent children must bear? James is gone. Mr. Juan has also set out. The two most important men in Diep's life are charging into the storm to find answers. Left behind are Diep, the small girl at the farm, and Mrs. Lan, the suffering mother in the villa. They are the women standing at the threshold of truth. 3 days, just 3 more days. When Mr. Juan returns, the curtain on 25 years of history will be lifted. But will he make it back in time? Or will the storm of destiny sweep everything away before the confession can be spoken? What is the secret that a wife of 25 years knew nothing about? What could make a father play the villain to protect his children? The answer lies ahead, and it will surely leave us all in shock. A fairy tale romance that hides earth-shattering family secrets. How will James and Diep face it when the truth is exposed? Hold on to your hearts, because what happens next will be twice as dramatic. Don't forget to like this video to give strength to Diep, and hit subscribe to be the first to know what that 25-year-old secret is in the next episode. Goodbye, and see you next time.